This is Dr. Joel Schwartz. I am the stress-less shrink. I graduated from Hahnemann Medical College in June of 1965. I retired as the emeritus chairman of psychiatry at Abington Memorial Hospital, and now I am doing professional speaking. I want to ask everybody a question, just by a show of hands. How many of you are under stress? Okay. How many of you are too stressed to raise your hand? Well, stress is everywhere. It's in business, it's at home. How do you know if you're under stress? Well, obviously, you feel anxious, you feel uncomfortable, you feel very fearful and worried. You get angry very easily, and you tend to yell at people, and then you feel very guilty about what you've said, and so you apologize, and then you feel angry about the fact that you had to apologize, so you yell at the person again. You're depressed. That's really the other side of the coin of anxiety. And sometimes you feel anxious, and sometimes you feel depressed, and sometimes you feel both at the same time. You feel exhausted. Things that you could normally do are too much for you to be able to do. You feel very irritable. People talk to you and you just don't want to listen. You feel very annoyed. Often, when I tell this, women will come up to me and say, "That's the way my husband is. Does that mean that he's anxious all the time?" And I say, "No, it's just that he's your husband." You have sleepless nights. You get in bed and you start to review the events of the day, and they go round and round. And then you get upset because you realize you're not falling asleep. And then you start to worry about the fact that you're not falling asleep. And finally, you fall asleep, and 15 minutes the alarm rings, and you're back for your day exhausted. People say get out, meet people, but it turns out that you don't feel like meeting people. You just want to withdraw and be by yourself. Now, one way to handle anxiety, and it's used, I think, too much, is medication and pills. I'm going to talk to you today about a different way to handle anxiety. And I think it's probably a better way. I graduated from Hahnemann in 1965, and I did my internship at Albert Einstein Medical Center in Philadelphia. When you graduate from medical school, you really don't know very much about how to take care of patients. And my advice to people is, if you have any control over when you go into the hospital, don't go in July and August, because the new staff has come on and they don't know very much. It was actually worse for me because my first rotation was in the emergency room. And I was in the emergency room on July the 4th. It was a zoo. There were broken bones, there were heart attacks, there were strokes, there were litters all over the place. And the nurse came over to me and she said, "You must see the patient in room number 5. She's just been bitten by a black widow spider." If there's one thing that I did not learn in medical school, it's what to do about black widow spider bites. So we had some books, and I went to the bookshelf and looked at all the books. And would you believe it? There actually was a book that talked about the treatment of black widow spider bites. Now, I looked at it and it said, do the following. Number 1, wrap the patient in a warm blanket. Number 2, put a tourniquet above the bite. Number 3, immerse the area in ice. Number 4, rush the patient to the nearest hospital. So I sent the person down to Jefferson. Now, actually, it was just a black spider. It was not a black widow spider. But what happened was I started to laugh. The nurses started to laugh. The residents that were in the ER started to laugh. And all the tension, the anxiety, the stress that we all had from up to that point that day just dissipated. And I had a valuable piece of information about what humor and laughter could do. But I actually missed it. I didn't realize what I had found. And it really took Norman Cousins, 5 or 6 years later, the head of the editor of Saturday Review. He was in the hospital. He had a condition called ankylosing spondylitis. It was very painful. He was on painkillers, steroids. He wasn't getting better. The only relief that he got was from video clips that Alan Funt, his friend, sent to him. And he would look at these clips and he would laugh and laugh and laugh. And he found out that laughter reduced his pain and lifted his spirits. He decided to check out of the hospital. He went to a hotel. He had an alternative medicine doctor take care of him. He put him on high doses of vitamin C. And every day he read funny books. He listened to funny tapes. He watched funny videos. And he got better. Now, it was not over the weekend, it was over a period of time. But he wrote a book, Anatomy of an Illness from a Patient's Perspective, which predicted all the things that he believed that humor and laughter and smiling and mirth could do. Most of what he predicted actually came true. Now, when he was in the hospital, the nurse came in and said, "We need a urine sample." When she left, he noticed that on his tray was some apple juice. Well, he took the apple juice and he poured it into the container and he gave it to the nurse when she came in. And she looked at it and she said, "You know, Mr. Cousins, your urine looks a little cloudy." He grabbed the container out of her hand, took off the top, and said, "Let me run it through again." Well, you can imagine what happened. 10 years later, they asked him, "What do you remember about that experience?" And he said, "Well, I remembered number one, the apple juice was Mott's. And number two, I'll never forget the expression on the nurse's face." But Norman was actually the guy that started people thinking about and beginning to do research about the effects of humor and smiling and laughter can do. And they've found the following things. First of all, and most important, you know that the chemistry of stress and the chemistry of laughter, they can't coexist. You can't be laughing and under stress. It's similar to the experience if you're lifting something heavy and somebody makes you laugh and you say, don't make me laugh because I'm going to drop this. Same thing. You can't be under stress and laughing at the same time. It will strengthen your immune system. And they've actually uh, found connections from the reticular activating system to areas in your body that produce immune bodies. And so obviously it's great for your health. We all have beta endorphins in our body. When you run, you release these, and the runners talk about a runner's high. Well, same thing with laughter. If you laugh 200 times, deep belly laughs, you will release these beta endorphins. So, my advice to you is tomorrow, when you get up, go to your window, look outside at the runners in the cold, in the rain, and laugh. and you will find that you will get as much kickback from endorphins that you do from the people that are outside. Bill Fry found that if you laugh 200 times, it's equal to 10 minutes on a rowing machine. Now, you're supposed to have 20 minutes of activity. Well, if you laugh 400 times, you'll get your 20 minutes in. It'll be fun. You won't have to join a gym. You won't have to try to squeeze into that spandex outfit that really never fits. That's another benefit. We know it increases oxygen to the heart, to the brain, to the lungs. We know that people that are on medication for cardiac and for blood sugar tend to have lower amounts of medication. In a study of a group of people that had heart attacks, if they divided them up into two groups, the people that laughed at the end of the year had fewer recurrences of the heart attacks than the people that did not laugh. If you are laughing, if you can get other people to laugh, it makes you feel more confident. It makes you feel special. If you ever watch people that are laughing, there's a certain bond that's created between those people. They know that marriages that have laughter have fewer divorces than those without laughter. There was a study in a very prestigious medical journal, Cosmopolitan. And in Cosmopolitan, they asked people, if you were looking for a significant other, name 5 traits that would be most important to you. Number 1 for women was a sense of humor. It was number 2 for men, and I'm not allowed to tell you what was number 1 for men. It tends to improve your thinking. It makes you more creative. You remember things that were told to you. It's like if you can wrap a humorous thought around something that you learn, it's like a hook in your brain. I often tell people, if you like the story about the spider, you'll remember it because it made you laugh, and there it is in that hook in your brain. Think about the teachers that you liked the best in school, the teachers that made you laugh, that told good stories. They're the ones that you remember the most. And commercials. If you watch a commercial that has humor, you're going to tend to remember it. So you want to take stress and you want to add humor and laughter and mirth. And what do you get? You get desserts. And for those of you that are diabetic, they are sugarless desserts. So you don't have to worry about increasing your blood sugar. Now, the problem is that most people suffer from ADHD, Adult Deficient Humor Disorder. They shy away from humor. And one of the reasons they say that humor is childish. Well, I think it's not childish. I think it's a child's way of looking at the world. And if you have children, if you have grandchildren, write down the funny things that they say, and you'll have a whole stand up routine. A first grade teacher was reading Chicken Little to the class, and she got to the part where Chicken Little came to the farmer and said, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling." She asked her class, "What do you think the farmer said?" And the little boy raised his hand and said, "Holy smokes, a talking chicken." Teacher asked her students to draw a picture of what their parents did. And this was a picture that the little girl drew. And then the next day, her mother sent in a note that said, "Dear Miss Davis, this is not a picture of me in a strip club dancing with people paying me. It is a picture of me. I work at Home Depot. We had a lot of snow last year, and I am getting money for selling snow shovels." Humor is all around us. If you're looking for humor, you'll find it. People that are negative, that tend to see bad things, only see bad things. But look for humor. It's all over the place. Now, I think this is wonderful because most restaurants will tell you up front that this is what's going to happen. This is probably my favorite one. Somebody called up Walmart and said, "I'd like you to make a cake, and I'd like you to say, 'Best wishes, Suzanne.' And underneath that, I think this is self explanatory. Do not take that second cup of coffee before you go up on the wall." I always like this slide because when I went to the gym, people would drive around to find a spot closest to the door. I thought the point was to get as much exercise as you could. I love this one. How are the people going to be able to read the sign? Or this, the irony, selling candy bars where the proceeds go to juvenile diabetes research. Another way is to change your perspective. If you can look at things in a very different way, it often will relieve your stress. We've all seen this, but let's look at it from a different point of view. Caution, men at work. Women work all the time. Men have to put up signs when they work. Now, I don't know if you know this, but the David was here for 6 months. It was in the Art Museum in Philadelphia. It was in New York. It was down in Atlanta, St. Louis, Chicago, on the West Coast for everybody to enjoy this beautiful statue. It was very expensive to have the statue here. And thanks to these sponsors, McDonald's, Burger King, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and Starbucks, they put up the money so they could enjoy this. The statue was here for 6 months. It just went home. Calories, tiny creatures that live in your closet and sew your clothes a little bit tighter every night. Laughter is like a needle and thread. Deftly used, it can patch up just about everything. There was a contest, and the winner would receive $86,400 put in their bank account. They could use it for whatever they wanted. They could buy things for themselves. They could give to charity. They could give it to somebody else. They couldn't transfer it, but they could buy something for somebody else. Whatever money they didn't use at the end of the day would disappear. But when they woke up the next day, they would find that there again was $86,400 in their bank. The only other important thing about the contest was the bank could terminate their account without any notice. Well, there is no such contest. However, we do have 86,400 seconds in a day. And the question that I pose to you is, how are you going to spend those seconds? Are you going to be grumpy? Are you going to complain? Are you going to see everything that's wrong and be miserable? Or are you going to use humor, use laughter for yourself, share it with everybody else, and be happy? Because you never know when those seconds are going to be terminated. Thank you very much.